Welcome, Crusoe. It's great that you've all joined us to celebrate International Disability Day. I know it's International Day for Disabled People, but I want to call it International Disability Day to make it wider in who it encompasses, etc., in terms of language on that. I am early 60s, it's my audio description, wearing glasses. I've actually got makeup on today, so I've got some nice red lippy, dark hair, pinned back, white top with a red necklace which said limitless on the necklace. It's great. All those speakers who are coming tonight, we're going to ask you to do a little bit of audio description, and we want to start by you introducing yourself, if that's okay, before we get into the main talks. It's an exciting night. We have got lots of things planned, but anything can happen in the next hour and a half. So be prepared to enjoy celebrating our lives together. So I'm going to go through the screen as I see it. So Rianne, can you tell us who you are and what you do, please?
So I'm the first one to not unmute. So, yeah, hi everyone. I'm Rian Davis. I'm Chief Executive of Disability Wales.
Thank you, Rianne. Over to John Luxton. You need to take your mic off, sweetheart.
Such an amateur, eh? Such an amateur. Anyway, yes, my name is John Luxton. I am a Specialist Advisor for Disability Equality, working to Jane Hutt, the Minister who's here today. I'm also a contractor, and I'm a performer.
Can you give a short audio description of yourself?
Yeah, I'm a short, fat, but devilishly handsome.
I'm waiting for it to catch up with the, this is where disability is really good. A short, fat and handsome, well, that can be debated. Okay, well, if anyone's got any comments you want to put in the chats about that, we'd welcome them. Sorry, Jane, would you mind, sorry, I'll go to Jane next, but Rianne, could you come back and just give a quick audio description?
Hello, I'm Jane Hutt. I'm the Deputy Minister and Chief Whip in the Welsh Government, and I've got sort of greying hair. I've got a black jacket and a symbol of the white ribbon symbol on my black jacket lapel. And I'm really pleased to be here.
Thank you so much for being here. We're pleased that you could come and give us your time. I know it's a busy day today for you. Thank you. Can we go back to Rianne for a quick audio description, please? Can you?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, sorry. I don't know, I've got sort of shoulderish length hair, sort of it's a bit of a mixed colour palette at the moment. It's like lockdown hair basically, and I'm wearing my reading glasses so that I can see what's going on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Sorry I didn't do it straight away. All right, we've got next Jake, if you'd like to introduce yourself and shock us with what you're wearing.
Hi everyone, my name's Jake Sawyers. I am a 6 foot white Welsh male. I've got brown hair that's quiffed up, and I'm wearing a sequins shirt. So the sequins all over it in silvers and blues, like space cosmic colours. And my background is my spare room / office / yoga studio / everything.
Right, thank you so much, Jake. Jake's going to be performing, but he already wins the prize for the best dressed person so far in the Zoom, which is really hard today when we only see each other from the sort of chests up. So well done, Jake. I'm going to lead to Sarah now. Sarah Beer.
Hi everyone, it's great to see you all. My name's Sarah Beer. I'm the National Officer for Performance Art and Creative Word at Disability Arts Cymru, and I'm also a performer, and I'm delighted that I'm going to be performing for you all a bit later on. Thanks very much.
Great. So you spoiled that surprise for everyone now, Sarah. So thank you very much. You can go away. All right. And our wonderful Barbara, who's going to give us an incredible presentation later. Can you say hello?
All right, I'm unmuted. And yeah, I mean, there's a new word in the language, unmuted. Who would have known we would be using it so frequently when I spent most of the 80s and 90s telling people, don't say mute. So my name's Barbara Lisicki. I have a stage name, which is Vanda Barbara. And Vanda Barbara is the comedian in me. So I toured as a stand-up with the Tragic But Brave show. So a couple of boys with guitars, singer-songwriters, and me, and lots of other guest performers.
Can you quickly describe yourself?
Yes, I have blonde hair, a long fringe, and just above my shoulders in a bob. I wear red lipstick, and I have very black eyes, which are actually the blue, like the actual eyeball bit is blue, but always with lashings of mascara. And I wanted to look especially luscious for being on
Thank you, Barbara. That's great. We'll speak to you later. All right. I'm going to do something unusual because I think it's important that people can know who's in the room. Would the interpreters mind quickly giving a little bit of an audio description of themselves? So can we start with Catherine first? She normally has a mic on, mute for the whole time. So thank you.
My name's Catherine McShane Riate, and I've got half dyed blonde, dark hair, tied up, and a black long sleeve top.
Great, thank you. Are we able to get Hannah in? Great, thank you, Hannah.
Yes, hello. My name is Hannah Dando, and I have sort of shoulder length, too long blonde hair really, with a hairband on, Alice band, and reading glasses so I can see everything that's going on. I'm wearing a black knitted top.
Thank you very much. I know it's unusual to do that, but I thought we need to be fair. Oh, actually, there's somebody, I don't know how to pronounce your name properly.
My name's Stefan. It's the name of the company that's called Come Yeah, my name's Stefan. I have absolutely no hair, so I won't be washing that tonight. I have black spectacles. I'm wearing a sort of a navy blue, rather nice touchy-feely top. That's a cap substitute, really. Yeah, it is on, but I'm on the English channel, so that's something else that I need to tell people, is that they need to select English to hear me. And basically, I'm a middle-aged 53-year-old man who is actually translating now from my mother's apartment, which almost overlooks Jane's house on the parade. So I'm just going to wave virtually to Jane and say hello. As you can see, I have a real face for radio.
Oh, you're not nice to yourself. Thank you for that. So two important things to let you know. We are recording this event, so if you do not want to be seen, put your cameras off. And also, they are wanting to encourage as much Welsh to be spoken in the room as possible. We have the Welsh translation, which will happen. Just click on the English bus, but I've lost the ability to talk and I need water. The button, and you'll be able to get the English translation. Okay, without further ado, we are going to start with something different and new, and handing over to a young man we recently met through our Youth Arts audit, and he's come through UCAN and is going to give us a wonderful performance. So please welcome, with a wave into the camera, Jake Sawyers. Thank you. Over to you.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming today. Happy National Disability Day. My name is Jake Sawyers. I am a performer, trained actor, general creative type person, and activism has always been something that's really close to my heart. I make online videos for the BBC about the lived experience of being severely sight impaired, but recently I've sort of dipped my toes into becoming a drag queen. My drag name is Venetia Blind, pause for effect, and Venetia likes to sing about the lived experience of what it's like to be blind in a funny, accessible way. And I thought today I'll perform a song that I would normally perform in full drag. Unfortunately, I didn't have the time today, didn't have the 6 hours it takes. So I've just put on this lovely sequins shirt. The song that I'm going to perform is called Inspiration Porn Star. It is inspired by a TED talk by the late Stella Young, who was a fantastic disability advocate, and I thought the lyrics of the song would fit in perfectly to the theme of the day. So I hope you enjoy. I'm just going to stand up. I'm actually going to be lip syncing this song, because if I was to sing it live, it would probably blow all your speakers. So that will be happening. Don't call me out for lip syncing. Here we go. Here goes absolutely nothing. I think we can all agree this bitch don't need no sympathy. And whenever I found success, people would say, oh, bless. You've been on the internet, you've seen all the posts. I'm young, I'm blind, and for some of humankind, I am an inspiration porn star. Comment, like, tag and share. Heartwarming content, don't you dare. Would you like an example of some inspiration porn? Just a little sample. Picture in your minds a wheelchair user asked out to prom by a guy who liked her. But I would bet that without her permission, the caption reads he asked her out despite her condition. Tell me, why is it okay that we see disabled bodies in this way? 'Cause I feel it's time to change. We're just living our lives, is that so strange? But maybe that's just it. We're not seen enough doing really cool shit. We have an underrepresentation and it borders on dehumanization. That's a big word. It's who me, oh me, God, you're so brave me. I'm not a living miracle, I'm not being satirical. I'm not exceptional because I live with it. I should make you feel grateful, not a little bit. Rant's not over. I am an inspiration porn star. Now don't get me wrong, I'm great, mesmerizing some would say, but here is where it gets a little bit tricky. You've been fed a lie that disability's a bad thing. Jake, tell us why. Our portrayal on screen paints a sad sob story not approved by this queen. An inaccurate representation of the disabled population. For us it's just normal, let's stop the bastardization. Not seen as sexual beings, you wanna see me nude? Don't forget the only disability is a bad attitude. Tell me, why is it okay that we see disabled bodies in this way? 'Cause I feel it's time to change. We're just living our lives, is that so strange? But maybe that's just it. We're not seen enough doing really cool shit. We have an underrepresentation and it borders on dehumanization. 'Cause all you wanna do, babe, is ooh me, oh me, God, you're so brave me. All you wanna do, baby. I'm not a living miracle, I'm not being satirical. I'm not exceptional because I live with it. I should make you feel grateful, not a little bit. This song's over, and the title was Inspiration Porn Star.
Oh, fantastic. If we all could just take our mics off and just go, woo! Say,
That might have been the weirdest thing I've done this year.
oh, thank you ever so much, Jake.
Oh,
I knew it was right to ask you to do something for us. So what a great start. Entertainment, but really getting those words into our lives about what it is like and what we need to keep fighting about. And we don't want to be no inspirational porn. So thank you for that. Okay, I'm sorry to have to ask the Deputy Minister and Chief Whip to follow that. We don't expect it to be done in song, but we're so thrilled that Jane Hutt is with us today. She's had a busy day because there's been a manifesto launch, and Rhiannon will tell us a bit about that later, I'm sure. But please welcome the Deputy Minister, Jane Hutt. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Ruth. Diolch yn fawr I chi gyd. Thank you. Well, my few words. Prynhawn da, diolch yn fawr I chi gyd am eich gwahoddiad.
Thank you very much for your invitation.
Really pleased to be here. But Jack, that was incredible. That was really great, because it's quite hard to get our music and singing over, isn't it, on the virtually like this, but it came over brilliantly, and your wonderful outfit too. But I hope we could get, the message was so good. So, I mean, we ought to get that message out much more in the song, but really great. So I'm really pleased to be here with Disability Arts Wales, because it's so important, your organisation and all your participants and all the actors and performers. I've met quite a few of you in recent weeks and months, and to come together and marking International Day of Disabled People is just for me a priority today. So yes, I mean, I was very pleased to be at the manifesto launch held earlier on today, and also that I had a very excellent presentation of the manifesto and all the key points in it. But also I was able to answer some questions on key issues affecting, most important, and affecting disabled people in Wales. So, you know, thank you for that brilliant manifesto that you've produced, to Rian and the team. It was so excellent to have it presented, and also that Disability Wales engaged so many people, the surveys, the experiences, the quotes that came through on everything from employment to housing. Of course, crucially important, and the first question I was asked is about how we can move forward in terms of incorporating new and conventional disabled people into legislation. So I did deliver a statement, an oral statement. I know people don't always aren't able to see the Senedd events, proceedings, and we are partly in the Senedd, partly working from home. So on Tuesday, I went into the chamber and gave a statement, chamber and a Senedd. It's there's only a few of us there because we can't have too many, so it's called a hybrid session. But I was determined to be in there to deliver my statement to mark the International Day of Disabled People. And in that statement, I spoke about the disproportionate impact of COVID-19 on disabled people, about the deaths, the losses, the tragedies of coronavirus impacting on disabled people. And I was very moved by the fact that Rian in her manifesto launch said that she was dedicating her manifesto, she'll talk about this, I know, to all those disabled people who've lost their lives across the world here and across the world because of COVID-19. But I also spoke about the importance of the social model of disability, and explaining again what that actually means to the Senedd, to all the members, and obviously that includes all the people in government, all the different political parties. I talked a bit about the things that we were trying to do and what the social model of disability means, about accessible forms of communication. Now I know John's speaking as well, and he may be mentioning this, but he's been helping so much in terms of moving this forward to get accessible forms of communication, particularly during this period of the pandemic. And it's actually made everything, it's actually brought out a commitment now, not just through a crisis like the pandemic, but actually through everything that we do. It shouldn't be just because we've had a pandemic that we then start listening and learning. We need to get our policies right. We need to get them, as we say, co-produced, so that we're working with disabled people, just not today, but throughout the year. It's not just a day for disabled people today, it's out throughout the year. Now, I just know that Disability Arts Cymru goes way back to 1992. You were pioneers back in 1992, delivering disability equality social model training to arts bodies across the whole of Wales. You're also champions of the disability arts, arts that actually explore the conceptual ideas and physical realities of what it is to be living in a disabling world. And I congratulate you for that. Again, these messages need to be shared much more publicly and openly, as they should. So in the summer, I attended Disability Arts Cymru's virtual Creative Writing Awards. I gave out the Creative Word Award and listened to various performances. And last week, I attended through Zoom an exhibition by Disability Arts Cymru at Oriel Davies Gallery. So those have been important experiences for me, and they've been uplifting experiences as well. It's so important that the lived experiences of disabled people in Wales are made visible. And through these events held by Disability Arts Cymru, we've witnessed how art is a great way to achieve this. And taking into consideration and taking seriously and then acting on it, the lived experience of disabled people in Wales is our priority in the Welsh Government. I've chaired 6 of the online disability equality forums. There's been other meetings as well alongside those. Rianne's always at those meetings. Discussions have taken place on a variety of concerns and developments related to disabled people in Wales, but also Disability Arts Cymru also engaging in the forum, as you do, Ruth, in other forums like the Third Sector Partnership Council. You must be really getting into so many of those discussions, and rightly so, to give that feedback to the Welsh Government on the views, experiences and needs of disabled people within the arts during the coronavirus crisis. You know, and I did learn quite a lot from you, Ruth, early on about, you know, working from home and until there was a vaccination, you didn't, you know, what it meant to be locked down, and of course the sort of all of the issues about not just the virus, but how we're protecting and yet empowering people at home at the same time has been really important part of our discussions. So I know John and Rianne will be talking a bit more, well, obviously about the manifesto, but particularly important that we're going to refresh our Action on Disability framework. We launched that back in 2019. We got to revisit that in the light of COVID, strengthen it, I'm sure, learn from it, from the last 10 months, how we embed that learning from the pandemic into the revised, refreshed manifesto, well, the Action on Disability framework, but also learn from your manifesto, Rianne, from Disability Wales. So I thank you again for organising this great event, Disability Arts Cymru. Such an important day to recognise the rights of disabled people, the need to enact the social model of disability in everything we do. And I was asked the question about that, about training. Critically important that people have got to be trained, and no person can tell me that they don't need training, however old they are or however experienced they are. They need training on the social model of disability. So anyway, diolch yn fawr. I can't stay with you, but I certainly want to support you in every way I can from this day onwards, not just on International Day for Disabled People, which is a great day for celebration. Diolch yn fawr. Hwyl fawr.
Thank you so much.
Jane.
They're great words, and we really do thank you and appreciate the work that you're doing to really change things for disabled people across Wales. So long may it continue. Thank you. Right. We're going to move on, but before we do, we're going to just swap the SLIs over, if that's okay. All right, brilliant, thank you. Well, we've got some history to be looking at the moment, and I'm really excited because as I've got to know people, to realise how many people have been connected with Disability Arts Cymru. The Minister said 1992, but we actually did start in 1982, so we're 10 years older than that. And that means in 2 years' time, we'll be 40 years old. Interesting times. But Rianne Davies is going to give a little bit of background about the history, because we want to celebrate what's gone before us. And it's been people like Rianne and John who've actually helped us get to the place they are today. So I would like us to welcome Rianne. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. Thank you so much for the invitation to be here today. Our special, in the best sense of the word, day in the Disabled People's Movement, the International Day of Disabled People. So greetings to everybody. Yes, it has been a bit of a trip down memory lane preparing for this session. I actually worked, when I worked for the organisation, it was called Arts for Disabled People in Wales. It was back in the late 80s. So I think the organisation had been going for about 5 years or so at the time I joined, initially as administrator, but then I became the development officer. It was a very tiny organisation then. When I first joined, there was only 2 of us, and then the other person left, and it was just me for a while. I think for me, my time at ADPW, as we called it then, had such a major influence on me, because it was through ADPW that I first became aware of the social model of disability, and then also the power of the arts to create change, both in terms of the individual, but also within wider society. At the time I joined the organisation, I'd become disabled about 5 years earlier, and I'd worked previously for a local disability organisation based in Newport, but I didn't identify as a disabled person. And it was, I think all that changed when I attended a Shape Arts National Conference, which was up in Lancaster. It was about one of the first things I got involved in when I joined the organisation. And I met there a number of other people in the sort of disability arts world, who've become, many of whom have gone on to become leading lights in the movement. So, for example, Mandy Colleran, who I know many of you will know, and also the late Sian Vasey, who we lost recently. But also the keynote speaker was somebody called Dr. Vic Finkelstein. And I had no idea who he was at the time. But he, in his speech, he talked about something called the social model of disability. As I listened to him talk about how it's barriers in society that disable people, and then he also talked about things like disability arts and disability culture, you know, terms that I was completely unfamiliar with. It was like a light bulb switching on in my life, because for the first time I was able to make sense of the previous 5 years of my life since I'd become a disabled person. So I became a true convert to the cause and lapped up everything that I could read. We used to get a magazine called Disability Arts in London, which used to come into the office once a month, and I almost used to rip open the envelope, you know, to read it, even though it was all about stuff going on in London. You know, it was just so exciting. And used to attend, there was lots of disability arts festivals going on at that time that I used to travel to, because I have to be honest, back in Wales in the late 80s, I guess it was a bit of a hostile environment in terms of being a disabled person. It wasn't a very enlightened space. There was still a sense of, you know, sort of, you know, quite, I suppose, patronising, really, quite doing, you know, sort of thinking of disabled people as those less fortunate than ourselves. So it felt like I was the only person who knew, let alone understood, what the social model of disability was all about. I'd get lots of hostile reactions whenever I started talking about it, because people found what I was saying very challenging. And in those years, I guess the organisation, as its name suggested, Arts for Disabled People in Wales, it was very much an organisation for disabled people rather than an organisation of disabled people. And I know attempts like that John and myself and others tried to make, you know, for it to become an organisation of disabled people was met with a great deal of opposition. And although the organisation provided lots of creative opportunities, you know, for disabled people, which were valuable in themselves, there was very little kind of political content. There were very few disabled people working professionally in the arts or in the community arts scene. So of course, most of the projects and workshops and things were run by non-disabled people and very well-meaning, but you know, it wasn't about using the arts really to create a movement. But anyway, I suppose as the sort of time went on, 80s turned into the 90s, there were started to be quite a few of us around on the scene, like, you know, John, Maggie Hampton, Sarah Beer, Tony, you know, who were about activism and were about, you know, how do we get the social model across? And we all formed an organisation that was called Cardiff and Vale Coalition of Disabled People. And that kind of spearheaded the campaign in Wales, and sort of joining in with what was going on in the rest of the UK to get fully enforceable and comprehensive civil rights legislation. So we used to go up, we used to book whatever accessible coach was available and get up to London and join lobbies and protests and stuff like that. But then we also used to run events in Cardiff to draw attention to, you know, to the campaign. And I think because many of us were involved, had been involved or were involved in sort of creative and arts activity, we used to use some of those techniques in terms of the campaigns. I don't know whether John will probably talk more about things like the march, which is called the Halls of Shame, going around Cardiff, which by then all these new shopping centres that were going up all over the place and new buildings, but very few of them accessible. And I remember when the Civil Rights Bill was thrown out of the House of Commons, you know, we held a wake for it outside Welsh Government, because at that time the William Hague, who had been the Minister for Disabled People, had become the Secretary of State for Wales. So we held a wake outside Welsh Government. So, you know, so there was kind of a lots of that, using kind of humour and kind of creative approaches to get our you know, get our voice across and to get our message. And, you know, we did get a lot of media attention. So I think, you know, from those early days, I think what having, you know, even though it was a very small and very kind of quite tiny disability arts scene, I think for those of us involved in it, it actually then springboarded us into kind of wider campaigning and activism, and, you know, and I guess, you know, that's, you know, developed, you know, momentum then over the years, really, in kind of building up disabled people's organisations in Wales. And then obviously, you know, once Welsh Government came on the scene, and the Assembly, or the Senedd as it now is, you know, seeing that as another vehicle for campaigning. But also I think for myself, those early, you know, that early part of my career working in the disability arts field has kind of never left me. And I mean, I get personally involved in sort of arts and theatre and things, but we do use a lot of arts and creative approaches in our work in Wales. You know, we've done things around, you know, with using creative writing, using Theatre Forum, using video, and because I think, you know, there is nothing more powerful than using dance or movement or poetry or a video to, you know, to get across a message in a way which is powerful, but is also accessible. So so I'll be forever grateful, you know, for my time, you know, working with ADPW as it was, and seeing how it's grown, you know, to become Disability Arts Cymru, and to become, you know, the lead organisation in Wales for disability arts, and long may it remain so. Diolch yn fawr iawn.
ever so much for all those amazing words, but also we're building on what you set up all those years ago. And it's great how nothing's wasted. And I'm really glad that we're still keeping connected in how we can support each other's organisations and work. Thank you ever so much. I'm going to hand over to John now. We've just got 5 minutes, if that's all right, John, because we're running a little bit behind. So, John, over to you. You need to turn your mic on. We do want to hear about you.
It's her again. Yes, I think 5 minutes is going to be fine because I think really said so much of what I was going to say. But great, it's great that we have memories that are pretty much the same. So I'd like to thank Dak for the invitation. It's flattering and a bit of a risk for you guys, you know, because who knows what I'm going to say. I'm not even sure myself. Anyway, I'd like to thank you. It is flattering, but what isn't flattering? It's a photograph, is it? Rachel, what happened to that photograph? Well, yeah, it's not the best look, is it? Anyway, I got over that, you know, about yesterday, I think. And so I'm feeling okay about it now. Anyway, so I first got involved with DAC about 1988, I think it was. And I quickly became a board member. And working with Rian, we did struggle to make that organization into a novel organization. It was something that we considered incredibly important. We wanted to join the disabled people's movement. And we couldn't even join BCODP or anything else with the constitution that we had, let alone, you know, campaign in the way we wanted. And that battle was won, and the organization very quickly transformed into to what it's become now, particularly after like people have said a few times, all that work we did on social model training. Very quickly we were leaders in the field, completely leaders in the field. That was really good to be part of that. And it was at this point I first came across the social model of disability. I think it might have been you, Ian. You might have given me something to read or something. Maybe, you know, I'm pretty sure it was definitely from you. And I read it and I thought, yeah, this is really brilliant. Because this materialist philosophy, it immediately captured my imagination and has become a guide for the rest of my life. But at the time, I was quite a active Marxist, and Rian used to say, come on, get involved in this. I go, no, the revolution will sort it all out. Yeah, the social model is right, but you know, why am I going to waste my time doing that when I could actually leave a change much quicker through other actions? But then I read Rosa Luxemburg, and she said we should always be trying to reform things and make things better and not looking for the final big victory. So that was good. So I got persuaded by Rian to get involved in the creation of, well, it was a Rights Without Fights event. And so I said, they came around my house, and Rian came around my house and said, please, John, will you chair this event? I said, I'm not chairing it. Rights Without Fights, that's nonsense. But I said, if I chair it, I will say at the beginning, this is nonsense. And I did, and that was it. Got stuck in disability politics after that. So DAC, I have to say, you were my well, gateway drug, really, to full addiction regarding disability politics. So thank you for that. Changed my life. Okay, all right. So I was asked to speak to you today, at least I think I was, you know, around the connection between creativity, creative struggle, and the emancipation of disabled people. Like I said, at least I think that's what I was asked. Hearing Ruth earlier, I think might have been something different. And I think the minister is expecting me to say something completely different. But anyway, the die is cast, you know. So, you know, when I was asked to do this, I was guessing it was because of my background, my career in dance, theatre, film, well, not many films, and of course photography, with physical theatre being the thing that got me, that I felt was most important for me. But it got me thinking about creativity and the source of it and the nature of it. I'm a bit of a Bjork fan. Some people know that. I'm a bit of a Bjork fan. In fact, in some jurisdictions, I'd probably be called a stalker. But there you are. It's not this one, so I'm fine. And I remembered an interview from Bjork in the late 90s where she was asked, you know, the kind of usual lame questions. And one of them was, where did your creativity come from? And Bjork, she stared at the person. I thought, well, she's going to kick off. Now, this is going to be entertaining. But she answered the question properly. And she said, my creativity comes from my mother, who was a political activist, and my father, who was an electrician. And she said, no, all my uncles were builders, carpenters, roofers, all that. They were all builders. And she said, and she then drew the parallels between writing a song and building a house. She said there was no difference. There's no material difference between the two. And so that's where she got her creativity from her working class, you know, trade-based upbringing, which it was fantastic. And, you know, it started making me think. All progressive political actions are in themselves creative. You know, to make change, we must be able to imagine what that change is. We must be able to see a different world in front of us. And we must then be determined enough to carry out the actions that will make that change. And the organizations like DAC and others, they followed that through for many years, and we should all be proud of what we have. Yeah. Speaking of, Rian talked about the Builders of Shame, or whatever it was, that march, and that was a creative thing. I really enjoyed that, because we traveled around saying bad things about buildings which shouldn't have been built the way they were, because they weren't that old. I mean, and one or two we felt broke the building regulations, and we gave little speeches outside of each of them, which was good fun, and we got it in the paper. That was really great. But my favorite one was, the wake was brilliant, and my favorite one was when we you know, when I came up with the idea of getting shaky tin things, you know, collection tins, but sealing the top so no money could go in, and then placing our members in a shopping centre, and so to create that interaction between people. And of course, when they try to put the money in, they can't put the money in. So that moment of dissonance is a way of starting a discussion about, you know, why are we here? What's it all about? What are we campaigning for? I mean, I got royally slated for not being there because I was on holiday, but there you go. You know, that was quite something. So yes, I think we've always tried to be creative. In my own art, my own movement book, my own art, there was nothing for me to follow. There was no 450 years of ballet that I could tap into movement vocabulary wise. So I had to create my own movement vocabulary. All my artistic work has been political, sometimes obliquely, but always seeking truths through the demonstration of physical interaction of people. I've also performed for some DAC. So I've also performed in some DAC performances, some pretty crazy ones, really enjoyable ones, proper propaganda theatre. Chris Talley, propaganda, you, Sarah, propaganda theatre at its best. Some of them were very funny. If I have to say something funny, one thing that was very funny, I was asked with about 2 days' notice to come in and lead this piece. It was a musical. I can't sing, you know, I'm rubbish at it, and I'm rubbish at remembering words. So I said, well, I can't sing and I can't remember lyrics in 2 days. And Sarah said, don't worry. And Chris said, don't worry, you're miming. I thought, yes. But the problem was, on the day when we performed it, I couldn't remember the words. So every time I couldn't remember words, I turned my head stage back, you know, so that no one could see my lips not moving in the appropriate way. So that was quite amusing. And another amusing story from DAC was when Barbara led a fantastic piece of work for us, which trained people like myself and others, and Rachel, into how to deliver and understand the social model in its delivery with disability equality training. And it was a great experience. And it was 4 weeks, 1 week a month or something like that. And we all worked really hard. It was quite a hothouse environment. One night we all got incredibly drunk, or a lot of us did. We were absolutely hanging. And we decided to play with the hotel's Christmas tree. It was a big, huge Christmas tree. We managed to trash the tree, get mud everywhere, try to replant it. The whole thing was a disaster, but it was hilarious. But the next day, Maggie was incredibly angry. She really, really went to town with us. So that was one of the funnier things, and shameful in some ways, but hell, good memories. Yeah. So when I look at this screen, what I see in front of me are loads and loads of really good creative people. Creativity is in all of us. We must consciously embrace it, use it to make the changes that we all want.
Yeah, that's great, John. Thank you ever so much. I'm sorry I've got to cut you short. I think we could listen to you all night, because there's so much she didn't really tell us. But I'm getting a sense that was quite a lot of law breakers in DAC in the early days. But anyway, you're still around, which is good. Anyway, we're going to do a swap of the SLIs. So we'll just do that. Okay. I don't want to speak until we got the SLIs there. Right, thank you. And we have a wonderful performer, activist, role model, internationally, nationally, and she's just phenomenal. And we're going to just slip the timing a bit and have her to give us a full 20 minutes. So we'll break after that and have less time for Q&A, but do put things in the chat. But it's our great honor to welcome Barbara Zicki. Over to you.
Gotcha. I'm in. Okay, thank you very much. It's so great to be invited today, because I spent the 2 hours before coming here talking to a bunch of non-disabled people, running a training session about Disability History Month and International Day. And all I kept thinking, it'll be over soon. It'll be over soon. I can be with my own people. And that's how it feels. That's where we're at. And you know, the disability movement and disability arts, I feel bad for young people today, young disabled people, because they haven't got what we had. And that was some of the most exciting times you could have, because we created a movement. We grabbed hold of the social model and wrung every bit of positivity and usefulness and learning from it. And we said, this came from us and it's ours, it belongs to us. And we're going to share it with the world because they need to hear it. But the best thing about the social model of disability, which I mean, hopefully everybody knows, but I always sum up the social model of disability by saying that, you know, we contrast it with the way the world sees us, which is as a bunch of people have got things wrong with us, and where the medical profession want to fix us. And the social model says, nah, you're all right. You've got an impairment, but what's disabling is that the world around you gives you shit. The world around you blocks you, puts barriers in your way, tries to make you invisible, tries to exclude you from what's going on. And during the 80s and the 90s, disabled people, we all started to come together and said, enough, we ain't doing this anymore. Stop it, and stop it now. Because, you know, when we get together, we've learned this from so many other people and so many other movements. We learned it from the suffragists and suffragettes. We learned it from Black Power. You know, we learned it from all the liberation movements around the world. And what we said is, do you know what? When we're together, we are more powerful and we have a lot of fun, because that's where the disability arts came in. We just discovered that we had all these artists and writers and musicians and painters and poets and just people that took old art forms and turned them into new art forms, like sign, song and dance, because that then became ours and it belonged to us, and it was magic because nobody else could do it. And it came from us, and it was a huge creative expression. And anybody that's ever seen Caro Parker perform Bohemian Rhapsody using Sign's song will know what I'm talking about. And if you haven't, see if you can track it down on YouTube or something, because it is a joy. And there are so many things that are joyful. I'm going to kind of start with the joy, because John started talking about the times that we had. And I was coming down to Wales regularly to run these training sessions and train up disabled people to become equality trainers and for Wales, so that you had a resource, a country resource, and didn't have to keep getting people like me driving 250 miles, you know, every time you needed some training. And they were one of the things that I remember, like John, about these training sessions, and they were residential, is that we had to stay in the only accessible, and we're talking about early 90s, we had to stay in the only accessible place we could find at that time, which was a John Groom's hotel. I mean, they called it a hotel. Basically, it was where people from one residential institution in some part of the country got bussed down to this residential institution in a different part of the UK. And they said, yeah, you're on holiday, but you still have to go to bed at 8 o'clock. And so they had never seen disabled people like us before, who liked to, I mean, we worked hard, we learned during the day, and then we got together and did what we do in the evenings, and we had a laugh and we did stuff. But we learned early on that the caretaker was not a happy bunny, because he decided that we were going to the bar and buying drinks. And then one evening about 9 o'clock, he looked at his watch and he said, I think you've had enough, don't you? And closed the bar. He pulled the shutters down. And we said, but we want another drink. We're not. And he said, no, I don't like the language I'm hearing. And he disapproved of the language. He disapproved of the people, and he closed us down. And as it says above Ruth's head, we shall not be removed. And we would not be, and we would not be told what we could do and when we could do it in a facility that called itself a hotel, which we were paying for. So the next day after we'd finished working, we went down to the local town, found the offie and bought a load of bottles and little snacks. And, you know, we did a nice little shop. And we, from that moment on, we created our own party. But the thing we forgot to buy was glasses. So we had to sneak down to the bar. Somebody was sent as a decoy to get rid of the caretaker while we stole a lot of glasses. But what we didn't know is that this man had serious issues, because he was counting the glasses at the end of the evening. He said, oh my goodness, there are about 16 missing. And we just looked innocent. And this Christmas tree that John said is that somebody did get a bit carried away and decided to climb it, but it was fake. It wasn't a real Christmas tree, and it just snapped in half. And we were hauled in to the manager's office the next day like naughty school kids. And I just said, look, just tell us what we owe you. We'll cough up. But we are guests in your hotel, and we're going to do what we do. If you don't want us after this, that's fine, because frankly, we don't want to come back. And you wouldn't, because this place was nasty. Nice countryside, but oh God, awful. And, you know, I mean, my instinct was, as all of ours was, is that all these other groups of disabled people that were being bussed in from institutions, we just wanted to go and say to them, your life doesn't have to be like this. There are other ways. We can do this. But, you know, we didn't have the resources at the time. But what we did have is an emergent independent living movement. And that was the purpose of the independent living centres, the independent living movement, is that people did have the choice, if they wanted to get out, live in the way that they wanted to live, and love who they wanted to love, be with the partners they wanted to be with, and not be told by somebody that they swore too much, that they were too loud, that they were inappropriate. And, you know, I take it as a compliment being inappropriate. I rather like it. I mean, the group, the touring roadshow we had was called the Tragic But Brave Show, because we took two of the most sort of annoying stereotypes that there were about disabled people and said, right back at you. And one of my favorite slogans, one of my favorite actions, which I want to tell you about, was the block telethon action. Now, that was one of the biggest actions that there's ever been organised by disabled people, and I was quite involved in that. And the one in 1992, we decided that we'd been approached by young disabled people in a youth group who said, oh, another telethon's coming up and we can't bear it. Is there anything we can do? And so we said, yeah, there is. And we built one of the biggest demonstrations and actions against the dreadful, execrable telethon that you could ever see. But we made it a party. We were lucky it was a sunny day. We were lucky that people were so buzzed and enthused by the fact that we did want to, you know, that there was going to be a protest against it, because, you know, it was full of, like, name the most 10 patronizing celebrities that you can imagine. They were all there, you know, Chris Tarrant, Esther Ranson. And I mean, poor old Frank Bruno got dragged into it. And of course, he came out as one of us later on. So, you know, he was just sort of hiding a bit. But we had the most amazing party. We bought our own sound equipment. You know, we had all the tech stuff that we needed. Everything was going on. And we blocked the entire road for hours upon hours. And we had learned from the previous, much smaller anti-telethon demo that we'd had a couple of years previously, that we really did need to plan. And one of the things that we planned was that we had a banner. We had a banner making session at our house, and people were just writing down slogans. And I think Johnny Crescendo wrote "Piss on Pity" on a banner. And we took it to the demo. It's just this one little banner on a bit of cardboard with a nailed to a stick. And the police came along and said, "We're confiscating your banner. It's offensive." And so we were ready in 92. We had 500 T-shirts made with "Piss on Pity" emblazoned across the front, black T-shirts with shocking pink lettering. And when all these people turned up and put on "Piss on Pity" T-shirts, we said to the police didn't know what to do. And I said, "Well, I'll take it off if you want, but I'm not wearing anything underneath." And that was how it was. It was the best party. And I remember Professor Mike Oliver speaking at that demo. And the thing that he said, and Vic spoke as well, everybody contributed in some way. And what Mike Oliver said was, this is the only place in the UK today that you can feel proud as a disabled person, because all the televisions, all the homes across the countries are being bombarded with this patronizing, offensive garbage that claims to raise funds so that they can hide us away that bit better, that they can warehouse us into institutions and pretend to care when they take us on holiday to Skegness for a fortnight, where it rains all the time. Sorry if anybody has got emotional ties to Skegness, but anyway, you know what I'm talking about, weather. And we had the best day, and we celebrated, because the other T-shirts we had made was Disability Pride. And that's what disability arts is. It's what disability activism is. It's about having a real pride in our identities as disabled people. And I've got to be clear, I'm not saying I'm proud of my impairment, because that's nonsense. I'm saying I exist and I like how I am, and I'm proud of it, and I'm proud of who I am. And I will not be stopped by people who think that I don't belong, or that I don't deserve that job, or that I don't deserve to travel because your transport infrastructure is inaccessible, or that you don't want me on your plane. You know, several of us will remember when to get on a plane, it was legal for the airline to request a letter from your doctor saying that you did not smell offensive. And that actually happened. Disabled people who wanted to fly were asked to supply a doctor's letter to say they didn't stink. And I said, well, I do smell, actually. And it's CK1 by Calvin Klein. So we needed to show our pride. We needed to show our defiance. And I think we've carried on doing that. We've carried on being defiant. We've carried on being proud. But I think, and this is, you know, I've been asked to talk about what happens next, is that I think we've slowed down too much. I think some of us have sort of spent a lot of our lives doing this. And I'm not saying I want to stop, but I do want a bit of a rest now and then. And what I want is young disabled people to get the same energy, the same passion, the same fury, but also feeling of celebration and wonder, you know, our world and the possibilities of change. And we must change things. There's no doubt about it that we have to change, you know, in every possible way. I mean, you know, 30 years ago, I was pregnant and I was offered so many tests because my partner was Johnny Crescendo, was also a disabled man, although nothing congenital. I mean, you know, it was like he got polio. He just, you know, got the wrong water at the wrong time. And that was, you know, that was it, which is how polio happened. It was waterborne. But we were, you know, they talked to us about genetic counselling and all this. And I said, look, don't worry. I'm not interested. Don't tell me anything. I don't want to know anything about this baby. The baby I have is the baby I have. So when my baby came to be born, I didn't even know if it was a boy or a girl. I only knew one thing for sure about that baby. I knew it was going to be blonde. And I knew that because I'd already bought the peroxide. So I want so much from this world for disabled people. I want us to keep our energy, keep our vibrancy. And, you know, this thing about assimilation into the mainstream, I see more Crips on TV now than I used to. I see more disabled people, and all that's a good thing. But I also see disabled people living in institutions that shouldn't be there. I also see that the fact that the greatest number of people dying from COVID are disabled people, statistically. I see that people have to beg for benefits and jump through hoops and go through the most appalling and punitive systems of assessment just to be able to live and meet some basic access needs in their lives. You know, you need a decent wheelchair. We're looking at £8,000 if you need a bit of electronic gizmo gadgetry on it. You know, this is who's got £8,000? And then, you know, so I'll get it on Motability, and that's you stuffed up for the next 10 years because you're handing it all back. And that means you don't have money for other stuff. And we all know that people use their you know, PIP allowances and all those on basically staying alive, you know, keeping the heating on when it's freezing outside. So, you know, we've got to stop this. We've got to really challenge the fact that disabled people are still disproportionately living in poverty. Disabled people still disproportionately don't have the choices and don't have the rights that we fought for and have been fighting for all these years. And we got to fight for the right to party. So I was going to call this this presentation, wherever it is Dude, Where's My Activism? And I tell you where it is. It's with the next generation. It needs to be with this generation that's coming up and that, you know, have got life that's a bit better and a bit more comfortable because we did put ourselves on the line. I got arrested a hell of a lot of times. And one thing I learned about being arrested is where to hide the chocolate. And so they don't even give you a cup of tea in the cells, most of them. I mean, God, the coppers in Leeds, I got to say, is that, I mean, they were just rude. And but it's, you know, you just learn that this is what needs to happen. And I want the next generation to know that. And I want to have their parties and I want them to make new art and I want them to do all that stuff. But I also want them to feel fury and anger and an end to poverty and incarceration and warehousing, and demand true equality and actively failing to feel grateful. We are not grateful. And one of my favorite headlines when we were doing all the actions was the ungrateful disabled. And I thought, damn right, that's exactly what we are. And that's exactly how we should stay. So we need to get the energy back of the sort of height of our activism. We need radical politics, we need radical actions, and controversial. We need radical arts. stop being safe with the arts. That is my timer telling me to stop.
Right, okay.
I'll just wrap up in the next 30 seconds. Yeah, we need people to be proud, angry and strong, but also have strategies, make a plan, keep going and do stuff. And, you know, we want to be part, before I snuff it, I've got a few years left, hopefully, but before I snuff it, I want, you know, to see like more change where young people will be in a society that values us, embraces our difference, doesn't keep trying to fix us, you know, get rid of our pain, get rid of the horrible bits, but don't try and make us assimilate, pretend that we don't exist, you know, hide who we are. And gives us enough, and this is a very old, John will recognize this phrase, we need enough resources, not just to survive, but to have bread and roses. And I won't, till my last breath, I won't stop demanding it, and I won't stop campaigning for it. And I think that that's what we should all be doing, and I hope that's what we are all doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Barbara. I mean, you have just nailed it with so many brilliant stories, but also the journey we're on, because there are not that many young disabled people who have got that same call for activism. And so we need to support that and make sure voices can be heard. That was brilliant. Now, all panelists, thank you so much for what you've given so far. We have gone a bit over, and I really appreciate the technical workers for bearing with us, but we're just going to stop for 5 minutes. Wow, what a first half. I don't know what you're feeling like, but I'm feeling all fired up. I'm feeling excited by what I've heard. I think some of the things that I've said has made me feel immensely proud to be working in this company, but also to have Barbara, someone I've known for a while now, and know she really did put her life out there for us to be where we are at today. But that it's not stopped. There is still things we need to sort out. One of the things that was said today around the manifesto that was launched with Disability Wales, it's brilliant. The link's in the chat, so do get it. Is that it's about 59% of disabled people of people who've died of COVID of disabled people across the UK. In Wales, it's actually 68%. So it's almost 2/3. It's just so frightening. But the big thing is no one's telling that story. The media aren't picking that up. There's still a disavowal of our lives. Yeah. But the arts movement, disability arts movement, really got those issues out there and changed things. And we really thank all of you for what you've done. And we're going to ask some questions later on. So please get thinking what you need to ask. But one of the great things as well is how we've become more embedded in the art scene. It's still a long way to go, but we're creating work that is changing the setup of the arts, allowing some great pieces of work to come through. And I'm immensely proud that Sarah Beer is going to perform a short extract from the most fantastic theatre piece that from Richard III Redux, written by Kate O'Reilly and Philip Cirillo. We're really pleased that she's here to do that. Please welcome Sarah.
Thank you, Ruth. Just a little bit of context. I had several different personas in the Richard III Redux, which was a one-person show. So this extract is from my West Walian character who spent a lot of time in her childhood reading Shakespeare in her nan's front parlour. In a production, there would be a screen behind me with a picture of a Milwaukee brace, which was a bit of medical equipment you had to wear if you had scoliosis back in the day. The Milwaukee brace is also known as a cervicothoracolumbosacororthosis. It consists of a neck ring with throat mold, 2 occipital pads, a leather pelvic girdle, aluminium uprights, leather L-shaped thoracic pads, and metal bars in the front and in the back. Lateral pads are strapped to these bars, and adjustment of these straps holds the spine in alignment. The Milwaukee brace is used in the treatment of postural disorders or spinal curvature in children who have not reached their growth spurt. The Milwaukee brace is often prescribed to be worn 23 hours a day until the patient reaches skeletal maturity and growth ceases, or in my case, until lunchtime, when I'd managed to persuade one of the teachers to take it off me so I could run around the playground with the other girls and boys. At first, I hated wearing it. It was hard and uncomfortable, and I smelt like someone you'd find living rough under a bridge with all the white spirit they put on me to protect my hips and chin from the constant rubbing. Then, after I convinced the class I was bionic, like the $6 million man on telly, only better, because I was a 10-year-old girl and in real life, I started to not like it exactly, but see it differently. It's a badge of honour, Nan said. Sign of your battle wounds. That Milwaukee brace is a symbol of all you've gone through so far. Milwaukee. Largest city in the state of Wisconsin, USA, Milwaukee. A lovely word, Milwaukee. From the Native American Algonquian word Milwaukee, meaning good, beautiful, and pleasant land. Good, beautiful, pleasant land. Good, beautiful. They call me Quasi at school. Asked after Esmeralda and queried how the campanology was coming along. Google it. Or do what Nan always said. Improve yourself. Look it up in the dictionary, Tupsin. Campanology. That was what constituted bullying from the posh middle-class girl in school whose parents got the Telegraph from London rather than the Western Telegraph or Pembrokeshire News, which we all read. It didn't bother me, the Quasimodoing, because he was gentle and loving, loyal, and in the end, the best out of the whole bunch. No, I was quite fond of the old crookback. And, as my best friend Clakey said, Bessay, you don't ring no bells. And I didn't. It was after the 360th anniversary of Shakespeare's birth that things changed. 23rd of April. Not a day we'd celebrated before, it also being St. George's Day. But that year, some bright spark at school decided it would be edifying to introduce us to English ways. You know, open up our horizons a little to foreign ways via a special film show. So, into the main hall we all trooped, all 57 of us. Yeah, it was a small school. The lights were switched off and the curtains pulled across the windows to make it dark enough for the huge projector set up in the middle of the aisle. And then everything went monochrome. And a man with a fake nose, Black Purdy from the New Avengers page boy wig, and slightly padded shoulder, strutted into view. Now is the winter of our discontent, made glorious summer by the sons of York, and all the clouds that loud upon our house in the deep bosom of the ocean buried. Now are our brows bound with victorious wreaths. Our bruised arms hung up for monuments, our stern alarums changed to merry meetings, our dreadful marches to delightful measures. I knew the speech. It was one I'd learned at Nan's, but I'd never imagined it like this, all sneering and callous with those dead, shark eyes. No feeling, no warm blood, just delight at doing evil. And although Olivier's hump wasn't as big as ones I'd come to see later in my life, it was the most meaningful, for it meant wickedness. And suddenly, as we sat there in the darkened hall, I felt a shift. And my schoolmates started looking at me differently. Like I was the family pet with too much wolf in me. Woof. Woof. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Can we take our mics off and just go, woo?
Bravo.
Beautiful work.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Few technical issues there. Sorry about that.
And Philip as well for their work with you on that. That was fantastic. Well, we've only got about 5 minutes to ask a really important question or two. Do the SLIs want to swap over? It's your call. No, you're okay. All right. Has anyone got a burning question? Can we all be seen in the room if that's possible? No? Okay. It's going to be like that. I don't know who wants to ask a question. I'll open the chat and see if anyone puts a question in there. You can ask our panelists anything you want. Right, we're getting lots of applause, lots of claps, but does anyone want to be provocative and say something about the future? What do people feel in terms of the fact that our work has really been established through disability arts and activism? Does anyone want to ask any of the panelists their views on that? You've all been very quiet today.
Hi Ruth, it's
Brilliant.
Amanda Wells-Amar. Do you think it's time to go back to that level of energy that we used to have? Because there's lots of dangers. We've gone backwards and with austerity, and we may go backwards even further with COVID. Do we need to start shouting again?
Any panelists like to answer that question?
Well, I mean, I think I made it clear that I think we need to. I've no doubt. I think that, you know, we've had a few years of Tory government, and I'm not going to apologise for being political about this, but they targeted disabled people. You know, I remember when Tony Blair got in 1997, and everybody was so relieved at the end of, you know, 18 years of Tory government, Thatcher, Major, and finally we had a Labour government that we wanted. And within 6 months, Blair was saying, we got to review the benefits system, disabled people, you know, and it was like, we were being targeted, but just by a different government. So we went down, Dan, we called we had what we called a snap action. We managed to get about 40 or 50 people there. And we just went down to Downing Street, and we looked, you know, we were sort of quite quiet and meek, and we looked like we were just a very sort of polite demonstration until we got to the gates of 10 Downing Street in Whitehall. And then we had what looked like our packed lunches in our laps, but what it actually was takeaway containers full of red paint. And we flung them. And if you saw, there's T-shirts with red splatters that say that says nothing about us without us on it. That was the slogan, and that's from the red paint protest at Downing Street. A lot of us were arrested, but that image, all that red paint and disabled people covered in red paint, the coppers covered in red paint. Alan Sutherland, if anybody remembers him complaining because he'd worn a white suit and saying, "Oh, somebody should have told me." I said, never mind, you know, it gives a bit of interest, Alan. And we made a really powerful and strong point. And I think we can do that through really dramatic, you know, today we'd call it a bloody installation. We can be dramatic, we can be radical, and we need to get on with doing that. And
one of the questions in the room, I can just put this to you, Barbara.
Yeah.
What is the future of activism? We need to stop the erosion, really, of our rights. And for us at the moment, we're caught in the Zoom world because some of us can't get out into public and things. So what is the future? What can we do?
Well, it's what we need it to be, and it's what we want it to be. We've always been creative, and we will carry on being creative. We've just got to think of, you know, ways that work with where we are now. We're not going to be locked down forever. We're not going to be, you know, all sent letters written by Matt Hancock that say you are in the group that says you're clinically extremely vulnerable.
Did you get one of them as well?
I bloody did. And I went, you bastard, you never wrote to me saying, you know, have a happy birthday or here's a bit of extra money. You just write to me telling me to stay home and shut my mouth. So, you know, we will make new forms of activism. Social media didn't exist when we were being activists in the 90s. We had Dan. We have it now. We need to use it, and we need to start making performances that really raise this stuff. But, you know, we can be serious, but we can also be funny and entertaining and glorious and in your face. And
I think it's getting that balance, because there's so many artists within that membership. And are we all trying to make art to fit in, or should we be strong about our own identity of disabled and deaf people and really throw it out there and not be afraid? I think we've got an opportunity like we never had before, in that we're starting to talk to government and people in powerful places, but we must, the danger is we can soften it too much, and we need to really make sure those messages, 1 and 2 of us at work and age out of the job, things like this. So there's a lot of things we need to do, but one of the things I feel it really is coming through the chat is young people. Can we help them get that activist voice? Have you got any messages for the young people in the room? Because this is also being recorded and will be seen by lots of people.
Right. I will be your respected elder and your advisor, and I will tell you how to do it. I'll even come and get arrested with you, but you've got to make that, you've got to lead it. Young people, young disabled people have got to take the lead. We've done it and we've learned from it. We know how to do it, but it's your world, you know, it's still my world, but you need to get out there, and you won't believe how brilliant it is, though. You know, it's scary, but it gets your adrenaline going, I'll tell you, and it's better than a lot of drugs. So I'd say that, you know, activism is the thing that, you know, the fire in your belly, it will get you out, it will get you doing stuff, and it will make you say, why did I leave it so long? And it makes us visible. That's the other thing, is that I think Martin Luther King said, lots of people have said words to this effect, but it was Oscar Wilde probably, actually. There's worse things than being talked about, and that's not being talked about. And that's it. We got to be talked about. People have got to see us, get, you know, under our skins, find out what we're about, and understand that we know how to party, but we also know how to challenge and make change.
Yeah. There is a thought in the room about younger people tend to be more activists now, and with the social media world and information age, that there's more activism going on. I really question, where do we see young disabled people being activists? Is it their voices being heard in this activism, and what role can we play to help support those sort of developments in the future? I think DAC wants to try and work along that way, and we'd like to hear ideas, but we've actually had to come to an end of our wonderful time together. People have gone over, we've gone over time, and I'm very grateful to the technical workers in the room who have supported us with that. I'm sorry we didn't get the Q&A we wanted, but maybe we can come back to visit this in a new year in some way and see if we can get more young people in to actually start a conversation so we can learn both ways on what's happening. Thank you for all of you who have spoke today and performed. It's been wonderful. Sarah, because your mic's on, you've gone full screen. I just need you to be aware of that, so you don't pick your nose or anything rude. That can happen. I've seen it. If we can just thank all our speakers and performers. Jake and Sarah, you've been stunning. Thank you that all those questions that are going to be captured. Don't think we're going to lose anything, but thank you all for attending, and we'll keep in touch when the transcript and the film is ready to be seen again. But thank you all so much, and take care, and happy International Disabled People's Day. I know that we've got to keep on being the activists to make the change happen. We can be the change where we are, and we can find the others to help us be there as well. So take care, everyone. Thank you ever so much. See you all.
Yay.
Yay.
See y'all. See y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 you.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Love to see you.
So-
Oh, thank you for having me.
Bye.
Up to you now, Jake. Got a lot of work to do.